difficulties with our video, so bear with us while we play it. We're going to kind of use this microphone right here. And this is just a quick little introductory video, and then we will get into our presentation here.
And I have a son named 8 years old. He was diagnosed with a rare genetic disorder called HIF11. And I'm Francie. I have a son, Paul, who is 14 months old, and he was diagnosed with Down syndrome shortly after birth. Both have kids with special needs. We found that there was a lack of education regarding our amazing children and all children with disabilities. So we began brainstorming a way that we could actually educate parents and children regarding kids with special needs. And thus, Kind of the Upstate was born. KIND stands for Kids Including and Nurturing Differences. KIND aims to educate young children and encourage them to include others and nurture all forms of differences amongst their peers. We have picked some amazing books to share with children and family members. We know that these books and lesson plans will open the eyes of many people and hope that they will be able to understand the importance of being kind and loving to all. We are excited to announce that KIND is kicking off this fall. Stay tuned to see how you can be involved.
That was our first video that we released when we were just beginning back in 2021. So it's fun to see how things have changed along the way. Here. Here we go.
All right, so I'm gonna first start off by telling a quick story about my son, and his name is Ro, and Ro is now 5 years old. But when Ro was born, he was we had him at Greenville Memorial Hospital, and we did have some things in utero that they were concerned about. But once he was born, they said, all look good, and we were making something out of nothing. And come 4 weeks in to after he was born, I Googled for the first time, how do you know if your son is blind? Because I just had a mother's intuition that there was something that wasn't just right with having an older son and knowing that tracking should have been right about that time. I just had this feeling. So about 6 weeks, I was like, okay, something's really up. And by 8 weeks, we were at Duke University at their eye center, and we were doing our first exam under anesthesia to find out that Ro has a very rare congenital eye disease called bilateral persistent fetal vasculature that is tied to a genetic disorder called HIF11, which we did not get that official diagnosis until he was 7 months old. But at the time, we were hoping for some usable vision in his right eye. His left eye was deemed his not good eye, so they didn't touch it. But we went through 3 surgeries to try to see what kind of vision we could get. And we at this point, he does not have any usable vision. He might have a little bit of light reflex in his right eye. So Ro is blind, and it took some time for us to accept that and move on with that. But Ro is an extraordinary young boy, and that is him to the right with his cane. He uses a cane to get around, and he is just like anybody else, and just like any other 5-year-old his age. So, and this is us at the KIND event that we had this past start of the school year. And then this is my family. So we have my husband and I, and then Trip is my oldest. He's 7. Ro is 5, and then my youngest is Gray, who is 2. And we'll get more into this, but really Trip was part of the reason, was my reason and passion to, and Ro was my purpose to get kind of started. So here's Francie's story.
So I have twins. They are almost 4. In March, they'll be 4. Their names are Hall and Barrett. And Hall is the little guy on the right, Barrett to the left, and then Hall in his helmet. So cute. I had them at 37 weeks gestation, and I did not know that Hall had Down syndrome until he was born. So that was a little bit of a shock when we had him. We had no signs up until that point that he would have any, would have Down syndrome. And after he was born, he had 3 major GI surgeries, no heart surgeries, but 3 major GI surgeries. And he was in the NICU for almost 12 weeks. So they're my COVID babies. They were born on March 19th of 2020. And the world shut down the next day. So we had one visitor in the NICU every day. So my husband and I never met him together except the day he was born for about 2 minutes. So it was a lot to take in, given COVID, given a birth diagnosis, twins, the NICU. It was a lot, but Paul is just an amazing fellow. And that is us, gosh, shortly after, they were probably a year, almost a year old there, it's hard to believe. And my husband is also named Paul, named after, my little son is named after him, and we just love that. And this is my boys now. They're the best of friends. They're just wonderful, and they get along really well, surprisingly. And they're just the best of friends. So we'll go into our reasons for kind a little bit later, but Caroline and I really, or right now actually, Caroline and I really connected, having sons with differences and disabilities. She was very instrumental to me for starting off all the doctor's appointments, all the therapies, all the things we had to do. Since Roe is a little bit older than my boys, that was really helpful. So we started talking about it, and I'll let Caroline kind of continue.
So, when I think Hall was 8 months old, I called Francie and I was like, hey, listen, I have this idea and I really, would love for you to be a part of it if you're willing. But I want to start this nonprofit, that helps educate young children about disabilities and how to accept one another and how to, promote inclusion and also show these kids, kindness is everything. So I called her and I said, I got this idea and I would love, I got it from my son Trip, who he has taken to Roe after he was born, like he was no different from anybody else. And I was just like, if Trip can look past for his blindness and normalize the fact that just because he's blind doesn't mean he can't do all the same things that he can do, then any child can do this. And I thought, children's books, that's the way to do it. So I called Francie and I said, hey, will you do this with me? And she said yes. And
well, I actually said I'm a little tired, but we decided to proceed on.
Yeah. So in 2020, October 2020, I think we officially decided we were going to do it, and we applied for our 501c3 that November, and then come January here, we're an official nonprofit in 2021. So KIND stands for Kids Including and Nurturing Disabilities, and we were previously KIND. The D stood for differences, but we recently adjusted that to disabilities. We thought that was more of our niche. We felt like differences could be a broader term. So our mission is as Upstate is a nonprofit organization that seeks to advocate for kindness and acceptance and inclusion for all people with disabilities. And our goals are to educate young children about and encourage them to include one another, no matter how different they are, even or if they have a disability. We do this by using our children's books that we take into the classrooms and we read. And these children's books are very specific to us addressing multiple disabilities and differences so that these kids can see a wide range of diversity amongst disabilities and understand them. And we also don't just want the child to learn, we want the educator along with the parents to be able to continue this conversation at home.
So what is a KIND Day? So that is really what we do. KIND goes into schools quite frequently, and we go through first through third graders, and we go in and visit these classrooms. So first, second, and third grade classrooms, and we teach the students about disabilities, kindness, inclusion. We have a lesson plan that correlates with the book we've chosen, and the books we've chosen have been carefully thought out. We like a broad range of diversity. We did not want to have animals in our books. We'll go through this later, but I think this is really important. We found that person to person is more relatable, so we were really particular about the books and the lesson plans that we chose. So during a kind day, we read the book, as you can see, and then we do a whole coloring activity, a lesson plan, and we talk about differences and disabilities. It is a very powerful day. Our curriculum, as you can see here, we have multiple books that we like to read. Everyone Belongs, Just Add, All Wonders, and When Charlie Met Emma are some of our favorite books that we read with first, second, and third graders. So we read a special book, we have an open dialogue and discussions regarding disabilities. We have a fun PowerPoint presentation where the students meet friends with disabilities. We describe ways that we can befriend that child. We describe ways that we can have a conversation with that child, ways that we can help that child. And more importantly, we encourage these children and students to openly talk to that person with a disability, to not stare, to not make a rude comment, but to really approach them and befriend them. They participate in coloring and writing activities. We recite and sign a pledge to be kind. They receive a copy of the book that they actually can take home, which is a great gateway to get into the house and to discuss disabilities with parents, family members, friends. They also get to take, as y'all can see in the back, and I hope everybody will grab one, we have a bookmark, a book list that addresses all kinds of disabilities and different books to choose from. And they also get their own copy of the book. Conversation starters too. Obviously, this is a difficult topic, and some parents are more comfortable addressing disabilities and differences, and we want to help parents feel comfortable doing that. Here's our precious book list. Caroline, do you want to say anything about it?
So Francie and I came up with this book list. It took us a while to come up with all these different books and then to section them off into certain categories. But we ordered so many books. We read a lot of books too on just on the internet, but these truly are our favorite ones. And there's a little bit of everything on here. So we hope that these books the parents will find this helpful and order some of these books, because I know prior to myself having grown, I didn't have books in my library about children with disabilities. So it was definitely something that I was lacking. And so if we can provide an easy way for parents to be like, oh, I'll just buy one of these books on Amazon and I'll, put it in my library. And then it will hopefully encourage them to buy more. So then that discussion can continue at home. So that is our hope with our book list. And this is the pledge of kindness that we do. And what is so fun about this pledge, it is so simple, but we have gone to one particular school 3 years now in a row. And what was so beautiful is we went to for the third time, and we have had the chance to actually see the third graders that we saw 3 years in a row, and they all knew the pledge by heart. And so it was just like, and they remembered the moments that we had the prior years, and they knew what we were doing there. And it just like truly for them just to say it, and you didn't even have to say repeat after me. So this is our pledge, and it's simple but powerful.
It's really sweet when they repeat after the teacher or the leader in there, and everybody holds up their right hand, and then they come up afterwards and sign the pledge. And we do remind them, you're signing a pledge of kindness. We take pledges very seriously, and it is very impactful. Here they are signing the pledge. We had the younger students like pinky promise and make a heart and then sign their name underneath. It's really, really awesome.
And then they get to keep this in the classroom.
Yeah, and most teachers have it up the whole school year, and it's a great reminder.
So this is some of the students. So the books that they receive have a sticker inside, and the sticker says I, and then they write the date that we were there. So I, on November 9th, Caroline read this book and I pledged to be kind. So they all get to physically sign their book and write the date that we read it. And so it can be a constant reminder of the day that they made that promise to be kind, and the day that they will hopefully remember when they open that book, like, oh yeah, I remember that day, you know, we had kind come. And so we're hoping that would just spark, you know, discussion, but also spark the kids to remember, you know, they made that promise.
So a few things that we'd like to take away, and I think it's really important for parents to remember. It sounds very simple, but we all need to be reminded that everyone benefits from kindness and inclusion. Teaching kindness and inclusion is a way we can foster a great, caring community. Learning kindness and compassion at a young age is a lifelong benefit for all children. Children who are taught kindness and inclusion have tools for healthier relationships and personal successes later in life. When you introduce disability to your child, and we do try to touch on this just a little bit in our letters home to the parents, disability is not scary, it's not contagious. Some people are born with a disability, some become disabled during their lifetime. Disability is a part of human life, and not all disabilities are the same.
So the bookmarks that are in the back actually have these helpful tips on there, and we, you know, the parents that receive these, we hope that they do actually take a look at it and read it, because as a parent, I know, you know, once again, prior to Roe, I did not have the tools to understand how to talk with my oldest Trip about disabilities. So I know, looking back, I wish I would have had something like this, and those helpful tips, and kind to, you know, help me understand more of how to, you know, discuss disabilities at home. But we want everyone to welcome questions and encourage discussion with their children. So when a child is out in public and they do, you know, make a statement or ask a question about someone with a disability, we don't want the parents to shoo the child and discourage them from asking that question. They're curious and they want to know. And if you do say, no, like, we're not going to talk about that right now, that makes the child think that that's, you know, they said something bad and they should never do that again. And so that's not the message that you want to share with your child. You want to say, you know, it's sometimes they do catch you off guard, kids always do, but there's ways to, you know, maybe take a breath and just think about, you know, how you're going to approach the topic. So we want to help those parents know how to do that. Model kindness and inclusion. I mean, I think that's, you know, if the parents are doing that, the kids will do it as well. Teach empathy and intentionality. We need to have our children understand that we want them to feel not for the child that has a disability, we want them to feel with them. We want them to feel together. We all have the same feelings. We do this one thing where it's called the red heart game, and they all stand up and sit down at different things. Do you like basketball? Do you like soccer? Do you have red hair? Do you have glasses? And at the very end, we say, do you have a red heart? And everyone stands up, because everyone has a red heart and everyone shares those same feelings. So we want to teach that, and we want to notice and celebrate differences. So we are all different, I mean, Francie and I, we're not the same, and neither are our children. So we're all different in our own unique ways, disability or not. So we want everyone to understand that.
And I do think I'll add to Caroline's. I think when I was growing up, and probably when most of us were, I mean, you were told, don't stare, don't look, or I remember my mom being like, don't look. Well, instead, I welcome people looking at Hall and noticing that he is a little different. We had a child the other day at the grocery store that was staring at him a lot, and at first, my mom heart was a little hurt, but then, you know, I thought to myself, well, let me just take Hall over there, and I'm just going to introduce Hall to him. And I said, this is Hall, what's your name? And I said, Hall has Down syndrome, but he would love to give you a high five. He loves to give high fives. Hall gave him a high five, and it was as if that was all he needed. And they moved along, and the little boy was so precious and came up just after when we were leaving and said, thank you so much for introducing me to Hall. And I think sometimes that's all it takes. And just that little introduction, or that hello, or how are you, what's your name? Something so small, but it's very powerful. So 4 things we want to teach our children about disability. And this is something we hope each child who attends one of our kind days goes home with and kind of stores in their mind. Disability is not weird. It is not scary. We all have similarities and differences. We need to celebrate those and honor them. We need to learn respectful terminology and use that terminology. For an example, a cane is not a stick and it's not a toy, it is a tool. So it's really important. We have a book, Everyone Belongs, where a child does have a cane, a child has a speaking device. Those are all tools, and we make that very clear during our kind days. Assistive devices are tools. Again, we need to respect those. This is our end of the school year recap for 2022 to 2023. We saw 7 schools in the Upstate, and each child left the class that day with their own tangible copy of one of our books and other learning materials. We had 13 total kind days, so we reached almost 1,100 students, which is really awesome for our first big year. And this year we've already done a lot of. We're gonna probably double, if not triple that number, I'm sure. So that's really great. We have different donation levels and sponsoring classes. Just a quick little tidbit on this. It is very expensive. So we work all off of donations, generous donations, which we're so grateful for. But these books, as y'all can imagine, are very expensive. And so there are different ways you could sponsor a classroom, a kind day, part of a classroom, one child. And so you can visit our website to learn more about that. This is another little video. And so we have to obviously make sure the parents are okay with them taking their videos and pictures. But these are 2 short little videos about what kindness or the kind day means to these students.
Tons of ways, and that other people, just the way they look, their disability doesn't mean how they can do things differently, because they can do a lot of things they can do, like row and fall, they can do a bunch of things I cannot do.
Awesome. I love it.
Yeah. No matter what, like, someone looks like, you have to be kind to them.
Awesome. So it is so sweet. And I just, every time I leave, I think, gosh, some of these students got exactly what we were trying to, the message we were trying to get across, and they really do understand it. And Caroline and I sometimes see students with, that recognize us from kind, and they come right up and talk about the book and just how meaningful the day was. So it is a really wonderful thing, and I'm so glad that we're a part of it. And thank y'all for having us. We really appreciate it. I hope that we can answer any questions you might have. If you do want to learn more about, you can visit our website. It's info@kindoftheupstate.org. And we have an email, info@kindoftheupstate.org. And that is all we have for you all. Thank you so much. Any questions? Yes.
I focus a lot on the lower grades of elementary. Do you have plans to extend to the higher grades at the middle school level?
So interesting question. We had started off going to some preschools, and we realized that was too young. It's a little too, not heavy of a topic, but a little too in depth for some of them to understand. Even with simplifying it, it just felt like it didn't really work that well. So we've decided 1st through 3rd grade is where we're going to focus now. Those children, I feel like, need to gain the knowledge and the tools to go forward as they get older, and hopefully we instill something in them from a young age regarding disabilities. I think that we have thought there could be potential for older grades. It's a little difficult with what we're doing now as far as books go for an older grade. That would be, for now, I don't know if we'll do that. I think this year we're focusing 1st through 3rd. But I do think older children could benefit from this too. Yes, ma'am.
Have you thought of going like into Girl Scout or like the Daisy Girl Scout troops and the Brownies and the Cub Scouts and Tiger Cubs?
Great idea. That's a great idea. I think someone last year maybe mentioned that, but I'm glad you brought that up. We have visited the YMCA after school programs quite a few times, and those are really great too. You have students from all over coming, and it's just, we really like to keep it to about 20 to 25 students, just so that we can really have some positive dialogue But that is a wonderful idea. Thank you for that recommendation. Any other questions? No, thank you all so much, and thank you for listening. Thanks for coming. We appreciate it. Thank you, Chris.
So thank you.